The NFL regular season is wrapping up, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is so easy to use, and there are so many different ways to bet, like live same-game parlays. Find bets in the new Explore tab. Make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, the best way to find popular parlays, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/247 and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
Must be 21 plus and present in Arizona, Colorado, Connecticut, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, permitted parishes only, Massachusetts, Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, or Wyoming. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino, LLC. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG in Colorado, Iowa, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Virginia. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT-STEP to 53342 in Arizona, 1-888-789-7777, or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut, 1-800-9-WITH-IT in Indiana, 1-800-522-4700, or visit ksgamblinghelp.com in Kansas, 1-877-770-STOP in Louisiana. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Visit 1-800-GAMBLER.net in West Virginia, or call 1-800-522-4700 in Wyoming. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York, or visit oasas.ny.gov/gambling. Standard text messaging rates apply. Sports betting is void in Georgia, Hawaii, Utah, and other states where prohibited.
I'm Tim Fitzgerald at GoPowerCat.com.
And I'm Scott Chasen with Fog.net.
This is a replay of WIBW's TV show, The Drive.
Here's this week's episode on the 24/7 Sports Podcast Network.
Good evening, Wildcat and Jayhawk fans, and welcome to The Drive, sponsored by Briggs Auto Group. I am Tim Fitzgerald at GoPowerCat.com, and the man across the studio from me is Scott Chasen of Fog.net. Scott, it's not sub-zero out. We have resumed programming.
Yes, and hey, on the opposite end of that, I think it's going to be 50s, 60s maybe later this week. So if we can miss when it's sub-zero, maybe we can miss if the weather's nice too.
Weather segment to the show. That'd be awesome.
You want to start doing that?
Yeah.
I think you could be a weatherman.
We got him right over here. You can interact with us on social media at facebook.com/The Drive Show, on Twitter at The Drive 13, and of course, answer our weekly poll question and make your game predictions on our Twitter page. And remember, if you ever miss an episode of The Drive, you can listen to an audio-only version that will appear each Monday morning in the form of a podcast at both GoPowerCat.com and Fog.net. And we start things off with our 2-minute drill. The 2-minute drill is sponsored by Vanderbilt's Your Work Boot Center. Well, Scott, Kansas is 5-0 since our last episode, including a pair of ranked wins. What's changed for the Jayhawks during this stretch?
Well, Fitz, part of it, and we were just talking about this before we went on air here, is that the Jayhawks have played some easier teams to beat, I guess you could say nicely. Iowa State and Kansas State, two of the bottom teams in the Big 12, so those are going to be wins. But look, Kansas handled Oklahoma State, a ranked Oklahoma State team, and Kansas, quite frankly, dominated Texas Tech for probably 35 minutes of this game. Texas Tech never had the ball with the margin closer than 6 points at any point in the second half. Kansas led wire to wire. It ended up getting as close as 3, but then Kansas answered with a 3-point basket on the other end that sealed the game. Again, Kansas led wire to wire in this one. The final margin got close. Jayhawks weren't able to pull away. They didn't shoot it great, but Kansas really looked impressive. 2 reasons. One, the play of David McCormick. He absolutely dominated in this game. You see him there. He made his first 7 field goals, the record at Kansas, 10 for 10. LeGerald Vick a few years ago came close, 9 for 9. For a while, it looked like he was getting everything he wanted. Again, another impressive dunk there. The 2 shots he missed late in the game, he finished 7 for 10, so he missed 3. But the last 2 were probably his easiest shots of the day, funny enough. But he's played a lot better. He's been the team's best player, most consistent player, had the most big performances over the last couple months. And that's, coincided with a losing streak. I know some fans have been a little bit nervous about playing through him and what does that do to the ceiling of the team. But as we've talked about on the show, the reason the Jayhawks have been losing has not been a David McCormick problem as of late. It's been an everyone else problem, and particularly that guy who just knocked down the mid-range jumper in Jalen Wilson. Jalen Wilson had struggled playing alongside David McCormick. Some fans wanted KU to just go 5 guards, but Bill Self was never going to take McCormick off the floor when he was playing that well. The answer always was finding a way to get Jalen Wilson back to playing like he was at the beginning of the year. Fitz, he started to do that. His activity level has been great. He's getting rebounds both offensive and defensive end, and he's trying on defense, something that wasn't there a few weeks ago. Jalen Wilson has taken the next step for this team, Fitz, and I think that's really helping KU.
It's really, people were down on KU, but let's be honest here. They caught 2 games with Iowa State and Kansas State and really kind of hit the reset button with some comfortable wins. I think it really helped out Bill Self's team.
Yeah, and he even said after the last one against Texas Tech that it's the best he's felt about the team all year. I think that's pretty big praise. Well, Fitz, K-State won Saturday at TCU. That's right. The Wildcats picked up their 2nd Big 12 victory of the season by beating the TCU Horned Frogs 62-54. How'd the Wildcats get it done?
Well, they finally had a decisive stretch when they needed it. This team has really struggled to, kind of get over the hump, and they did it in this game. They hung around with TCU throughout the contest, but then in the final 5 minutes, K-State played maybe its best defense of the year, held the Horned Frogs without a field goal, and they were able to rally from, I think, 5 down and really surge at the end with some great play. Basically, Mike McGurl and Sultan Miguel, a senior and a freshman, took over this game on both ends of the floor. Both of them had 4 rebounds apiece in the last 5 minutes of the game. Miguel scored 7 of his 9 points in the last 5 minutes of the game, including a 3-pointer, which, if you've been following along, has not been his forte this season. And Mike McGurl almost refused to let his team lose as the lone senior on the roster really rose up and played some pretty good basketball down the stretch. You were beginning to get afraid that this team wouldn't get over the hump just because it was almost like it was a self-fulfilling prophecy. They felt like they couldn't win, and they just didn't win. But they finally did it. They finally executed, and really, I see some encouraging signs. Look, you're not talking about a great breakthrough when a team is now, 2 and whatever in the conference. It's a dreadful season for the Wildcats, but they have made some progress. The younger guys have started to find their roles. Guys like Antonio Gordon, Dejuan Gordon are settling into doing things the way they need to do it. And, of course, Nigel Pack has been pretty darn good, too, for the Wildcats. But Mike McGurl, shout out to you. Just a really, really big win. And he has tried to lead this team and carry this team at times, and he's just not equipped to do all the things he's been attempting to do, but he was really good down the stretch into this game with 16 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists. Still had too many turnovers, but that's just kind of been the way the season goes. K-State won. That's right. They're not going to go with the longest losing streak in school history. They set the single season losing streak at 13, but there was a 14-game losing streak previously spread over 2 seasons, and they ended their streak at 13. Senior day with Oklahoma's Tuesday.
Yeah. Fitz, a sign that things are going well when you throw a lob like they did in that game. I think we showed the video, and not 1 but 2 different players could actually catch it inside and score. It's just a matter of which one of the open guys is going to get the layup for K-State.
You didn't run the right play and still got points, so that's kind of worked out for K-State. Well, Scott, everyone agrees Baylor is the best team in the Big 12. Well, we didn't actually ask everyone. I'm sure there's someone that doesn't. But who do you think is the second best team this year?
Well, Fitz, it's interesting because, until recently, we've asked this question before. I would have said Texas as the answer just because they had so much experience returning. They add in a 5-star freshman. They're playing so well. And then you go to this game that they just played against West Virginia. It's almost been kind of like a microcosm of their season. They get up, I think, 19 points on that 3-point shot there. There's fighting on the bench. There's a little unrest. Now all of a sudden West Virginia is coming back, and West Virginia is the team kind of stealing away a win at the end. There was a little bit of a questionable call, questionable officiating down the stretch, but at the same time, you can't really cry officials and cry about the refs when, you blow a 19-point lead. For Texas, I think it's really interesting because this team returned a bunch of talent and has a bunch of talent, has a bunch of good players, and yet Shaka Smart, again, you see him kind of underperforming with a team that should easily be a top 5, top 10 squad, and now, is in danger of dropping and dropping and dropping. I think it's really interesting that if you look at blind resumes, you could make the argument that Kansas should be ranked higher than Texas. And again, this is a Texas team that many people felt was a top 10, top 5 caliber of team. Now, West Virginia is really interesting to me after losing Oscar Tshiebwe. They've played 4 round 1. They've really spread it out with shooters around Derek Culver. That's made him a Big 12 Player of the Year candidate. He's not going to win it. That's going to Jared Butler. But it's made him a very good player. It's made him a first-team All-Big 12 guy. And it's made West Virginia so much better. I think Texas Tech is talented. I think Kansas is in the conversation. I don't really buy Oklahoma. West Virginia Fitz is probably my pick, but I don't think Kansas is that far back of them. I don't know what to make of Texas right now because it seems like Texas has problems, and it seems like they may not be on the court problems.
Keep in mind that Texas got up 17 on K-State and almost blew that. A better team would have won it, and that's exactly what happened with West Virginia. I would have to say, based on the last 2 weeks, Kansas is probably the second best team, but I'll be blunt here. I think Baylor is so far ahead of everyone else, they don't even have to play the games, which weirdly enough, they're not doing that. They're not playing at all right now. It's weird. They've only had 9 conference games. Kansas has played 37.
16 the actual number. Think about that for a second.
It was off.
16 to 9. That's nearly twice as many conference games.
Crazy. Now a quick look at your poll question results. And poll questions are brought to you by Midland Exteriors. Love the home you live in. Call today for a free estimate.
Well, a question from the last episode was if, at the time, number 23 Kansas, that'll change, and number 18 Missouri played tomorrow at T-Mobile Center, who would win? You see the answers: A, Kansas, 73% of people; B, Missouri, 27% of people.
We don't have enough viewers that are Missouri fans, or maybe we do. Here's this week's question. After Baylor, who is the second best team in the Big 12? We just asked Scott, what's your answer? Here are the answers available to you. A, Oklahoma; B, West Virginia; C, Kansas; D, Texas. We have put their conference records in parentheses to make it nice and easy. Vote on our Twitter page at @TheDrive13.
Well, that will do it for this half of the 2-minute drill, but we will be right back with more on KU and K-State on The Drive.
My days working, taking care of my little ones can be a lot. I checked out care.com and it was so easy for me to find local, experienced, and background check sitters. Finding our babysitter was way more affordable than I thought.
Care.com makes it super easy. Search for qualified candidates. You can view their profiles, read reviews and ratings, check their availability, send messages directly, and get the help that you need. Care.com should be every person's go-to.
Welcome back to The Drive as we continue our weekly 2-minute drill. The 2-minute drill is sponsored by Vanderbilt's Your Work Boots Center. Well, Scott, Bryce Thompson made his return to action for KU last week. I noticed him playing with a glove on his hand after breaking his finger. How has he looked in the 4 games he has played?
Well, Fitz, it's interesting. It's not just any glove. It's a baseball glove, not a mitt, but a glove with the fingers cut out. It's funny, when he first said he was playing with a baseball glove, I was like, that's weird. He's not playing with a basketball glove. And then I remembered, wait, there's no such thing as a basketball glove. So think about this. This kid can't feel the ball when it rests on his palm. He said it's only in the fingers. The fingers have been cut out. And that, I guess, stabilizes the hand he broke his index finger on. That's his shooting hand, by the way. But yet he's actually played really, really well. And you go back to his debut, which came against Iowa State, and he played big minutes. The Jayhawks shortened their rotation right away. And man, did the 5-star freshman play like a 5-star freshman. He only had 8 points. I think he had 3 rebounds, but a number of highlight plays, including a huge block where afterwards he had some words for the Iowa State player, then said after the game that he thought he might be getting a technical foul on that one. He didn't, but you could tell passionate. He's only played 1 game since Christmas. He cracked a vertebrae in his back, missed some time, and then broke his finger. So this is just a guy who was excited to get back on the court. Fitz, he changes a lot with KU. I think he's played well. He's not shooting it well. Again, he's wearing a glove. You can kind of understand that. But this is a guy who can make a real difference for Kansas. He is heralded for his shooting. It's what he was known for in high school. That part of his game hasn't come yet. It probably will, maybe in future years. But think about what he's already done defensively. He has earned the trust of Bill Self to guard one-on-one when they go triangle and two. He has earned the trust to be on the court late in games. He was against Oklahoma State. He was early in the season against Creighton. He started a game very early in the year. He is a good facilitator. Bill Self wants him to be the backup point guard. KU has DeJuan Harris to fill that role, and he'll continue to get some minutes. But it's clear that Bryce Thompson is ahead of Harris on the pecking order, at least before this last game. Bryce Thompson had been the guy taking a lot of Harris's minutes. Now the two of them have kind of played together, giving KU those two ball handlers on the court together that they like at the same time. The biggest sign of things going Fitz a positive direction for Bryce Thompson. Didn't shoot it that well, did make a three, had a hanging layup, and still plays a ton of minutes. Bill Self is going to play a guy who's not shooting well, who's not scoring, who's a freshman. That tells you he's doing everything else, and I think that's very important for Thompson.
And with a glove.
With the glove.
Style counts.
You ever played basketball with a glove, Fitz?
That's just weird. No, I have not. That would be very strange, particularly in a shooting hand, because you couldn't feel the ball in your palm.
Yeah, I might try it sometime. I might. Well, Fitz, many K-State fans want a coaching change, but did the Wildcats' victory over TCU assure that Bruce Weber will return next season?
Okay, let's address the absurdity of this question that I wrote myself to answer. They have won 2 games, and does that assure in the conference that Bruce Weber will be back? It's kind of silly, but yeah, I mean, I think it does, because it's not just the victory, they are showing slow progress. And Gene Taylor, the athletics director of K-State, has been very clear. He does not want to make a change. The pandemic's played a role in this. It's a young team that didn't have enough time together before the season started. On and on. We get it. And we also get Bruce Weber's track record of building with young players, and it takes a process, and then every 3rd or 4th year, they're pretty darn good. Well, I'd just like to point out that even though they did win on Saturday, that these will be back-to-back the worst seasons in modern era of K-State basketball. Back-to-back. It's just unheard of how far they have dropped in the history of K-State basketball. But he will be back, and the team will be better next year. But the problem is, when you've won maybe 5 games in the conference over a 2-year period, which is just horrendous, what is better? If you win 5 in a season, is that a lot of growth? Well, you're still 5-13, and that stinks. Heck, you know, if you end up with 7 wins, you're still below 500, and is that what K-State fans expect? I don't think so. But Bruce Weber will be back unless, he retires or something unheard of happens. The real key here for Kansas State basketball is doing what Bruce Weber hasn't been able to do for a great period of time at K-State. Keep his players. He's got a great group of core players. And right now, everyone is jumping into the transfer portal. If this happens with some of those key freshmen or younger players, then you have to really question, why would they bring Bruce Weber back when you're banking on the young players as the reason to bring him back? So we'll see, but I think Bruce Weber will be back next season, and I would hope that K-Staters will set a pretty high bar, because I think asking to be 500 in a conference is not too much to ask.
Yeah, Fitz, one guy who's really impressed me, that young core, Nigel Pack. I mean, he had a 3 last game. What is it, 25-foot or something like that? It was very impressive.
They got some nice pieces. They really do. They just need a lot more time together. Mm-hmm. And now we step out of bounds, and Out of Bounds is brought to you by Copeland Insurance Agency, part of your community for more than 60 years.
Well, Fitz, Big 12 officiating has become a big topic of conversation this year. What do you think about the way the referees have performed so far?
Oh, boy. Did you know how passionate I am about this topic when you put this into the script? I think Big 12 officiating, and there really isn't such thing as Big 12 officials. If you watch enough college basketball, you'll see a guy like Doug Sermons, who I'm about to talk about a whole lot, working all over the country. Same with John Higgins. Officials work all over the place. You do have a core group of officials that you work in your conference, but they also work maybe Missouri Valley or whatever. I think college officiating is absolutely trash. And here's the reason why I think. Because college officiating doesn't have a core group that oversees it. The officials kind of oversee it. So if you're a young official that wants to climb the ladder, you have to go to the Doug Sermons camp or the John Higgins camp or whoever else and kiss their you-know-what to climb the ladder. So it becomes very incestuous, and all the kind of show-stopping habits of those guys get passed down through generations of future officials. Doug Sermons is a horrendous official. He should be good. He knows his fundamentals. He knows how to do it. but it's all about him. And he always wants to make that dramatic call or play. Now, we're looking at Chris Beard here just melting down over, he said a player was calling for a timeout, and yet one of his players was still called for a foul on the play, and he earned his technicals. I was proud of him. But you could do this in almost every game, particularly ones Doug Sermons works. Last time he worked a K-State game, he roared in, overruled another official that had the proper call and proper position to make the call wrong. But Doug Sermons got his time on camera. Scott, I'm just sick of college basketball officiating. They've got to figure this out. They have to bring in more guys. We're going to have to go through a painful process of teaching a bunch of young guys how to be better officials and just kind of go through the process. And also, Scott, they work too many games.
Yeah.
They'll work 4 or 5 games from coast to coast in a week, making lots of money. These guys are really well paid for each game. And you know what? If you travel 3 or 4 times a week on a plane, you're not fresh. There's just no way you can be.
Yeah, Fitz, every year officiating is a topic of conversation. It's very hard. I think we acknowledge that. It's very hard to do. To me, it does feel like this year there's been more and more controversy, whether it's guys getting technical fouls, whether it's foul counts piling up, whether it's games being officiated one way or another. The most frustrating team to watch for me is Texas Tech, and has been Texas Tech, because if the referees let them get away with the contact that they like to have on each play, really hard to beat. If they call everything, you get a situation like that where Chris Beard is going to melt down because they can't do anything. The game just needs more consistency. It needs more clear-cut, kind of everything. And you know what? It needs less of the monitors. It needs less of, oh, here's an inconsequential call that doesn't necessarily matter in a blowout. Let me go put myself on television and look at it again. I think football could stand to do that too. The number of times a 2-yard gain that might be a first down on first down in the first half gets looked at. We don't need that to be looked at. We can just move on to the next play.
I'm with you.
Well, now let's hear from the fans.
Our fan question this week is, Scott, do you think this KU team has any chance in March? Josh in Topeka with the question.
Well, Fitz, it's a really interesting question because I think a lot of KU fans kind of abandoned this team, which, in fairness, they lost 5 road games in a row. So there was kind of a reason to, right? They hit a losing skid, unlike you've seen before with Bill Self. But just like that, you win 5 games in a row, you beat 2 ranked teams, and you'll get to see that progress. Kansas plays Texas and Baylor. Now, Kansas is in a really unique spot right now because the Jayhawks have probably been as low as a 5 or a 6 seed in the NCAA tournament. Right now, they're projected to be a 4 seed, and if they get a few of these wins down the stretch that they might be in line for, I don't think a 3 seed is out of the question. The only way to get to a 2, in my opinion, would be winning out, which would be beating Baylor twice, winning the Big 12 tournament. Probably not very likely, but hey, you go 1-1 to close out the year, you go 2-1 in the Big 12 tournament, you're going to have 3 more Quadrant 1 wins. All of a sudden, you're a 3 seed, and quite frankly, I think at that point, you're a 3 seed that no one wants to face. That's usually how I look at things in the tournament. If you want to know how good a team is, think about the opponent and whether or not they would want to face them. And that usually gives you a pretty good indication of where they are. I don't think many 1 seeds would want Kansas to be their 4 seed this year. I think they'd be much happier if the Jayhawks were on the other side of the bracket. That tells me Kansas might be a little bit better than the ranking right now.
And I think outside of a few teams, Gonzaga and Baylor, it's really kind of a muddled mess. Even the Big Ten, that I think is a better conference this year than the Big 12, maybe more upper shelf teams, they kind of beat each other up, so you don't know what you're really going to get. And I guess come March, we'll find out if the committee got the seedings right, because I think March could be very entertaining.
Yeah, and for Kansas, being a 3 or a 2 this year, or a 6 even, could be a whole lot better than being a 4 or a 5. Avoid that 1 seed as long as possible. I think that's the key. Well, remember to ask us your questions on our Facebook page and on Twitter at The Drive 13. When we return, we will look at our predictions here on The Drive.
Selling a little or a lot? Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage, to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage. Shopify is here to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell everywhere. From their all-in-one e-commerce platform to their in-person POS system, wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Shopify helps you turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout. 15% better on average compared to other leading commerce platforms. And sell more with less effort thanks to Shopify Magic, your AI-powered all-star. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the U.S. And Shopify is the global force behind Allbirds, Rothy's, and Brooklinen, and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. Plus, Shopify's award-winning 24/7 help is there to support your success every step of the way. Because businesses that grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast.
Welcome back as we head down the home stretch of this week's show. It's now time to take a look at our predictions. Remember to make your predictions on our Twitter page at The Drive 13. Here are the previous results. The viewers went 1-2. I went 0-3. Scott went 2-1. I have a horrendous season. Let's just move on. Let's start with this week's picks. Kansas State plus 13.5 at West Virginia. Scott.
I'll take Kansas State. Let's see if they can get some momentum going.
I got the Mountaineers.
Next, Baylor minus 7.5 at Kansas. I will take Kansas to keep it close, Fitz.
I got the Bears. The Bears. Our last game of the week is a pick'em between Texas and Texas Tech. I have the Longhorns on the road.
I'll take Texas Tech.
Again, make your picks on our Twitter page at The Drive 13. Now it's time for our On the Clock segment. On the Clock is sponsored by Carpet One, buy local for a strong local community. And we start with Scott Chasen.
Well, Fitz, very, very limited time here, so I'll just give a quick shout out to Christian Brown. Didn't have the best shooting day in the last game, but both Texas Tech games made huge hustle plays that essentially won the Jayhawks the game, really in both contests. 2 for 10 3-point shooting, hits the dagger 3, but a bunch of hustle plays on the glass, really important for KU.
K-State has one senior, Mike McGurl. Senior night's Tuesday night, and I hope fans turn out for him because Mike has been a warrior all year long. That's it for this week's edition of The Drive. We will see you next week right here and all week on social media.
With Blue Link Plus, you can access your Hyundai Tucson Limited remotely. Doors unlocked, temperature set, lost car found.
There it is.
Get complimentary class-leading Blue Link Plus. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details.